Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon to one and all. Welcome to our virtual conference, Payments Council of India and Lyra presents Digital Money 2020 powered by PhonePe. Let us start a panel discussion on demonetization and COVID-19, fostering payment innovations through uncertainties. Let me start by introducing our moderator for the session, Mr. Deepak Chandani, Managing Director, South Asia and Middle East Worldline. Welcome, sir. Now, welcoming our esteemed panelists for the session, Mr. A.P. Hooda, Consultant, Swift India, Mr. Manish Patel, Founder and CEO, mSwipe, Mr. Jata Mohan, Senior Director, Payments FIS, Mr. Hemant Kala, Vice President, Financial Services and Payments, PhonePe. Before I request Mr. Chandani to take the discussion forward, I'm requesting all attendees to keep their questions in the chat box, and the panel will address a selected few at the end of the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for joining this session. I will start by introducing the panel a little more fully than our host has, so that you can appreciate who we have and the eminence of the panel that we have before us. And then after that, I will put a few questions to the panel requesting their views. So let me start first with Mr. A.P. Hooda. He is a former MD and CEO of NPCI. And right from the start, February 2009 till August 2017, he headed up NPCI. He was also GM at Reserve Bank of India and was the first head of the Department of Payments and Settlement System from 2005 to 2008. He was at the helm of NPCI at the time of demonetization, so he will have a particular perspective, I think, he can share with us around demonetization and its impact. He's been nominated to be a member of the Governing Council of RBI's proposed Innovation Hub. So welcome, Mr. Hooda, a lifelong experience in the payment business. Sujata Mohan is the head of payments at APMEA region for FIS Global. Prior to joining FIS, she worked at RBL Bank as the head of digital and new initiatives. She's also been the recipient of Women in FinTech Award in 2019 and has been called out as the top 30 FinTech influencers of 2020. She's been an active participant in the payment industry in India. Welcome, Sujata. We look forward to your perspectives. Let me go next to Hemant Kala. He leads payment and financial services for PhonePe. He's been part of the core team at PhonePe, building the payments business from its very early days. Prior to PhonePe, he was instrumental in driving the payment strategy for Flipkart and building a strong payments backbone for the commerce business. Hemant brings 2 decades of experience with leadership roles in companies like Visa, ICICI, HSBC, and ICICI TrueLife. Last but not least is Manish Patel. He's the founder and CEO of mSwipe Technologies. He's a qualified doctor from Mumbai University, and therefore you can ask him questions on the vaccine if you wish to at the end of this seminar. mSwipe is his 4th start. He started an alcohol business as a distributor. Prior to that, India's largest integrated vineyard. And he also set up and sold an ITES business on medical claim transcription processing for US-based physicians. So that's my panel. I myself am the CEO and MD of Worldline for South Asia, Middle East. Worldline is a large global player in the payment space. We've been in this business for 40 years and recently acquired Ingenico. And as a result of this, we are now the 4th largest payments company in the world. We are the number 1 in Europe and a leader in India as well. So it's with great pleasure that I finish the introduction. And before I start asking the questions, I'd like to just say a few words because I'm sure my colleagues around this panel after that will take over. So as you know, demonetization and COVID-19 have been the 2 black swan events that have struck the economy and by extension the payments ecosystem. Demon had a dramatic impact on the payments ecosystem, and while the system itself expanded substantially, the lasting effect, the most sustainable one, was the way it manipulated and impacted the mindset of customers, wherein while cash was still king, it became the princely heir, and it now for consumers, especially in urban settings, to go days without spending cash, whether it's a small kirana store or the large white goods store. This consumer minds, the willingness of consumers to use different digital payment instruments is what has allowed companies to drive innovation and new products in the last few years. And some of those who've driven these are around us on this virtual table. COVID-19 on the other hand has had a hugely damaging impact. Once it starts, there is going to be a new normal across the board for all of us in our lives, and it's going to be in digital payments as well. The work will be burnt into our collective conscience, our social distancing, sanitization, and some of these will reflect across all industries, including our own payment industry. The shape of digital payments will change once we get out of recovery, especially since in the past, payments, especially card payments and cash payments, are all physical with high contact, and that's something that's becoming a taboo for us as we move forward. So both these events, in my view, had a material and substantive impact on the payment industry, multiple dimensions, from the changing business models to new technology, form factors, customer adoption, and of course, the role of government, RBI, and payment schemes. With that introduction, let me now move to my first question. I'd like to address this one to you, Manish, first. Let me start by asking you, what changes have you seen in the industry structure, business models, as a result of these two events that have hit us in the last 4 years? Manish, over to you.
Thanks, Deepak. So two of the key things that I have seen is, number one, the smallest denominator, which is SMEs, are thinking hard on how to further digitize their business, right? I mean, I haven't seen that in my 8-9 years in this business. The second one is there's this huge merging of online and offline payments, right? I mean, to date, the industry has always been very well segmented. You've had, offline payments and you've had online payments, and these have been catered by different participants and service providers. And the big thing that I'm seeing now is everyone wants unified payments, right? I mean, they don't want to be dealing with 5 different service providers for 5 different types of payments that they need to accept at their establishment. So these are the two big, should I say, trends that we are seeing.
Let me go to Hemant. Manish manages machines at hundreds of thousands of physical outlets, and he has a view, and you are the exact opposite. Tell us what you think has changed in the industry, in the business models.
Yeah, I think, I bring in, from a consumer's point of view, I think we are seeing a massive explosion in digital adoption. To your point, I think Demon actually made people wake up to digital payments and seriously we started seeing initial adoption. It happened, March at the time UPI launched around Demon, and, it really played a key role in seeding that in consumers' initial adoption. What I think what UPI, COVID has really played is it has accelerated that adoption, and it has led to literally an explosion in organic adoption of digital payments. I mean, for us, the way we are seeing, there is increasingly, it's not about how do I learn, what do I do, it is about how do I do more. And every new use case that we open up to the consumers and try to help them make their life more digital, digitize any aspect of their life, we are seeing adoption. So I think what has changed from our side, I think deeper investments in bringing up more and more use cases to consumers, a clear acceptance. It's not just now about testing and trying to see how it works, but it is about making it like a way of life for consumers. And the way in which offline, I mean the transition to be able to bring into the fold millions of merchants because of a QR based acceptance model, which has helped us, scale across, to about 10, 11 million merchants across 400 cities, towns, villages, and moving it forward. But it has really helped accelerate the adoption because the cost of infra has gone down, and it is about, and it is merged with the fact that there is willingness in the ecosystem for people to, COVID has really made people wake up to the reality saying, look, contactless payment, QR based or something that I really want to do makes it easy, and that is seeding habit more deeper in both sides of the ecosystem.
Thanks, Hemant. Sujata, over to you. So, 5 years ago, before Demon, the banks were king, right? The banks ran acquiring. Now, I don't know if that's true, huh? And I've got two stalwarts here, and Manish and Hemant for sure not agree with the statement that banks were king. But you were a banker in those days, and you work with banks. So what's your view on how the industry has changed, and what's the impact of COVID and prior to that of Demon? And what's the change that has come about in the industry as a result of this?
Sure. So I think, I would have put this industry structure broken up into about 5 clear players, right? And each of them have played very different roles over a period of time. So when Demon happened, I remember prepaid was the hero product, right? As in, we used to have digital wallets all over the place. A merchant onboarding was being pushed. We used to have these calls with Mighty, trying to convince them, and POS devices were at a shortage. That's a framework in which we existed post-Demon for the first few months. And then we saw, and if you look at the way the players have evolved and how the businesses have moved, you can see that happen, right? Then, and at that time, BCs were playing a very big role because micro ATMs were the name of the game. People were, DMT was progressing at a very, very big pace. And as banks, we were becoming a participant, but not the change leader. We were kind of making sure that we worked very well with these players who were making changes at the hinterland of India. That was Demon. And over a period of time, I have seen that shift. And no thanks to the October 7, 2017 prepaid regulation, we had a drop in prepaid, and then UPI took off. And now we have UPI as a hero product for post-COVID. But what really is changing, as Manish and Hemant are saying, is the fact that today, I think the shift is slowly changing, and we are seeing cards becoming more and more prevalent in the corporate segment because you have to digitize. Checks are not going to be so easy to use. NEFT RTGS are becoming 24/7. So the whole construct and the business models has kind of shifted. And of course, UPI is playing a very big role in the consumer side. And I'm hoping that even on the there is a lot of plumbing work that needs to change, as Mr. Hota was speaking earlier on, for making it corporate enabled. But that's where cards will start playing a role, and that's how business models will shift, is what I feel.
So let me to you, Mr. Hota, and I came to you last very deliberately because when PCI, when demonetization happened, we were told nobody knew about monetization until it happened, till a few hours after it happened, it was announced. PCI, what was your perspective when Demon got announced? You were leading the Payment Corporation of India. What was your sense of how this was going to impact the entire industry? And now, 4 years later, having seen Demon through and the arrival of COVID, it would be great to get your perspective on what your thinking was, how you saw it evolve. So over to you, Mr. Hota.
Thank you very much. Demonetization was certainly one of the toughest decisions that the country had taken. All of a sudden, 86% of the currency in terms of value being taken out, sucked out from the economy. That means for the transactions to happen, some alternative is required. Obviously, and you all know how the ATMs are also not working because the new kind of new denomination and the new notes of 500 and and 2000 that came, they were of different sizes, and the ATMs were not ready. Even if the currency notes were printed, they were not made available. So there was a scarcity of currency, and this scarcity of currency has to be managed by the economy. because the transactions would have to go on. Obviously, you will have to fall on digital payments. Thankfully, during the past 7-8 years before 2016 November, a lot of work had been done. Card acceptance had gone up, the number of POS terminals had gone up, possibly I suppose hardly about 700 to 800,000 to about 1.5 million, and EPS had come, Aadhaar Pay had come, and UPI had just been launched a few months back in April 2016, and it was taking shape. So all the really basic works have been done, and JAM Trinity, Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile, that was the concept that everybody was really thinking on. And the idea of a less cash society was being talked about. So this was the opportunity to really to push electronic digital payments. But I must say, when I look back in 4 years, that was the period, obviously a big breakthrough in digital payments, but maybe a little forced one, because the choices were very limited. Compared to now in the COVID period, in fact, the history is totally different. Number of POS terminals during the demon period itself, nearly 1 million additional terminals came. Bharat QR was conceived, and Bharat QR came. Aadhaar Pay came. A lot of other alternative, and Bhim was launched by Prime Minister himself. And we all did not know about we knew about Bharat Interface for Money, even at NPCI. But Prime Minister said, this is on Bhim Rao Ambedkar, and that was the birthday also on 31st of December. So a whole lot of things in the demand time came, and now in 4 years, a drastic change. Because that energy in the demonetization that came, that gave a lot of push. Everybody started believing that now the country is on a mission mode, regulator is working on a mission mode, and regulator, government, everybody is really serious about a less cash society, not cashless society. Governor Raghuram Rajan told time and again, it is a less cash society. So 4 years down the line, during the COVID period, it has been thanks to UPI and use case development, and the ecosystem also worked extremely well. All the big techs, fintechs, everybody really worked extremely well. And now the situation is much different. Now customers are in a position to give choice. Initial few months, there was transactions came down, but now it has come up. The pre-COVID period, it has exceeded. And now I suppose a significant development. That is how now that yes, it is possible to have a less cash society. That spirit has come. The innovators are many, the players are many. They are really working all innovative things, and India is at the center of the retail payments. In fact, India is almost leading the globe in the digital payments. In the retail sector, I'm not talking about the large value payments. In the retail sector, is definitely India is on the forefront and no international discussion is complete without reference to the innovations taken place in India, UPI, and even the biometric-based payment, AEPS, the kind of work, magic that AEPS has done during the COVID period, particularly on disbursement of the DBT payments, that is phenomenal. And the acceptance infrastructure has grown. A lot of regulatory changes have taken place, including the creation of acceptance development fund and grievance redressal mechanism, and now the innovation council. So a lot of things have happened. So demonetization made a beginning, or made the country to dream that, well, we can be substantially different and we can lead over the rest of the nation. And now this COVID period, it has proven that we can really do it. Banks, as it is, they have shown extreme resilience. the banking system in India is much talked about, not just payments. That banking system, because of their operations, they are extremely resilient, and obviously a significant, contribution comes from the payment system, digital payment system.
Thank you, Mr.
Longer time.
Oh, no, that's okay. Thank you. So let me go back to you, Manish. And as I was listening to Mr. Hota, I was reminded of the complex of payments for a consumer. So since the last 4 years, we had wallets, of course, have cards. We still have checks. We still have cash. We still have QR. So as a consumer, and in terms of consumer adoption, how do you see the shape going forward? How do you think consumers are going to adopt these different form factors of issuance instruments? And which do you think is really going to continue to be important as we go forward? I know today UPI is the name of the game, and UPI is the most talked about. But I wanted your view on all the other issuance form factors and how consumers are going to adopt them.
Deepak, if you were to, I have a very simplistic view of how all of this has evolved, right? Ultimately, payment instruments have evolved basis technology and evolution of the internet. The core process is how do you debit your bank account or your store of money or value, right? And in the pre-internet era, that was a check. Ultimately, your bank account got set up, and you could access that using a check, or you could access that using a debit card at an ATM. The moment you had the internet, you had the ability to access the store of value using NEFT, RTGS, and online payment gateways, right? Which allowed you to use your card to be able to access your bank account. And with the advent of mobile, you've had an evolution, because the phone can be an identifier, a unique identifier, and if that is linked to your bank account, you can use your phone as a payment instrument again to access your store of value. So I think while I'm not an expert and we don't really participate much on the consumer side, there's a clear evolution basis, mainstream underlying technologies that have evolved, which consumers, businesses and fintechs and banks have actually exploited to build payment instruments that allow you to, very seamlessly and securely access the store of value. But what I think goes unspoken is the huge problem that this caused is merchants, right? And that's where we're so involved. On the merchant side, the merchant just wants to get paid, right? And today, for the merchant to get paid, earlier it was super simple. He had cash, he carried his cash at the end of the day, he's done, right? Then came cards, so he has, cash and cards. And now you've got cash, cards, wallets, online payments, you've got UPI, you've got QR, you've got contactless, right? And for small business, this starts becoming extremely challenging from the perspective of acceptance, recon, and I think not enough effort being put there, because ultimately, pretty much like you don't have, multiple POS terminals, one for Visa, one for MasterCard, one for American Express, right? Today, what I think has happened is that the merchant has got 20 QRs, he's got, 3 POS terminals, and he's got cash, right? And yes, all of the money does flow into his bank account, but recon is a problem, right? If you really talk to merchants, right, it is an issue. And, I think this is where the next, should I say, burst of effort needs to be provided from my view, right? The consumer has found a way to access his bank account, right? Whether it's by card, whether it's by contactless payments using, his app and a QR code, or simply going and drawing money from his bank account and paying cash, right? So I don't think it's a consumer problem anymore. It's more of of the acceptance problem. How do small, mid-sized, and large businesses, seamlessly accept all of this, which works without much effort on their end.
So Sujata, over to you. Manish is a very intelligent guy. He understands medicine, he understands alcohol, and he understands payments. Some of us don't understand so many different payment instruments to use, how to use, and especially the common man on the street. What is your view on how consumers adopt these new instruments, and what is going forward? I mean, COVID has defined something. Prior to that, Demon defined something. Where is it headed next? From a consumer point of view, describe the acceptance side of it and what happens with the merchant. On the consumer side, what's your perspective?
Sure. So if I define this entire payments industry, it's the payables and the receivables side of business interacting with each other, right? Now, as Manish has articulated, so many different formats of payments have come into the industry, and I am sensing that each consumer is. First we have a very heterogeneous set, right? People are very different in their asks in terms of what they are going to use, and secondly, it's also very contextual. Like where you use a UPI versus where you use a cash versus where you use a check is actually very contextual to the kind of transaction that's happening. And I think while so many instruments have come to fore, like we have contactless payments, we have QR code based payments, we have UPI, then you have prepaid, then you have debit card, so many, credit card and so on. Why somebody uses what instrument is contextual to 2-3 different aspects of a consumer's need. But above everything else, I think the two things that are, that stand out, and which is very visible in the way in which, you will see payment flows changing, is the user experience, in the sense that is depending on the point of the transaction and the user experience required over there, you will find the transaction consummation happening in that sense. Okay, and the second is the possibility of closure of transaction in the lowest possible point of time and in the most secure manner. And I also believe that this is driven by the fact that today I see that people's attention spans are very low, in the sense that they do not have the time to wait on transactions to get consummated or go over and so on. So typically, people who are able to give consumers the chance to close a transaction at speed and at the levels at which you want to do it, things happen. So for instance, if you are making a college payment, is somebody opening up a UPI and making a payment? No, they are quickly doing an NEFT and RTGS transfer, because that segment has not been attacked. And so every consumer will just go to the website, either put a card and make a transaction, or he'll do a NEFT RTGS transaction. But if he's paying a small one-on-one transaction payment, he will do it through a UPI, right? So this is where I'm saying that somewhere, as Manish is saying, on the acceptance side, we'll need to make it ubiquitous and a single framework. Even on the issuance side, on the payable side, a lot of work needs to happen to make all the payment flows interplayable. Now, just imagine for a moment that at one time, when you made IMPS as a transaction payment, you used it because it was 24/7. So largely you will take small payments 24/7, you would use IMPS. The moment NEFT became 24/7, today people are not necessarily loyal to IMPS, because even NEFT can be done 24/7. Now RTGS has become 24/7. Now, what is going to differentiate? It is going to be 100% the quickness of performance on that platform, where you're not going to have a single reject, right? So this is how I see the form factors playing out. And obviously the person who will capture this very well would be somebody who is able to take all these form factors and come up with one single model for somebody to use all contextlessly except for cards, because everything can be digitalized and virtualized now. And I'm sure most people who are in the issuance business are thinking about it right now, including banks. I'm sure they're thinking about it.
Hemant, over to you. You guys have made full use of technology and understanding of consumers, built up a fantastic franchise. What is your view on customer adoption, use of technology, form factors, and where is it going?
So, before starting, I'm really glad we have this, discussion, because I remember, a decade back when Manish was looking at, experimenting with bringing in the first set of, he was the first amongst the ones to bring in the mobile POS, and then we were debating how do we grow acceptance. And today where we are, and we are looking at, explosion of the work that has happened by everyone in the ecosystem, on the mobile POS side, on the POS side, and all across, where we are looking at explosion of, on both sides, on the issuing side and the acquiring side. So, in effect, I personally feel that, there has been this democratization of payments which is happening in India, which is really, really needed for a lot of us to play, to think differently, bring out new form factors, bring in new technology, play both on the consumer side and the merchant side. So I think the challenges around multiple instruments, recon, or all of these are interesting ones, because it's riding on the top of a surge in just the number of players playing in, the technology that is going in, the form factors that's going in. So that's a great out for India. Specifically, I just break the question in two parts. When we look at technology, I think what is really also helping when we look at technology is that it's becoming one. There is more and more talk of interoperability, and interoperable payments really grow in any ecosystem. It's playing out in India. It's played out in other geographies also. So interoperability is the key thing. Second is the access and financial inclusion that the access can drive. The access becomes so easy because like the credit and debits that we talk of, underlying instruments are just two now. It's either a bank account or a credit card. It's been that way. But the debit to bank account has become far so simple with interoperable payments paying out, which leads to access and which is leading to financial inclusion. So for us, today, more than 40-50% of our new customers are coming in from beyond tier 3 and beyond tier 3, towns, cities, and villages. So we are seeing acceptance in 4, 5, 6, tier 4, 5, 6 towns, villages. So that is really playing out because the access is now very easy. And technology has enabled this, which is, and this has been possible because the solutions are becoming more mobile first. So because it is mobile first, India is on a smartphone market with data explosion. It is really helping seed the customer behavior. It is creating access and leading to financial inclusion. I mean, connectivity over time pushes convergence. That is how it is. If you have more connectivity, you will see convergence of technology playing out. And for a country like India, I mean, you can look at it in three ways. Solving for India 1, India 2, and India 3. The first, India 1 is just 110 billion, which is easy, where you will see acceptance, where you will see people paying out. But solving for the next 100 million and then the billion after that, reaching to a billion after that, the India 2 and 3 is going to be really difficult. And that's where the form factor really plays out on how do you have low cost, scalable infra, which you can take payments across to masses and into the hinterlands. This is where for us, UPI is played out really well because the UPI QR is something which can be scaled and taken to hinterlands. We have huge team which are now trying to get into tier 4, 5, 6 cities, towns to drive acceptance. Lastly, I would say the deluge of data and AI or more than AI ML right now playing a role in really helping on the technology side in reducing frauds, simplifying payment experience. I mean, for the first time in the country, you seen in last 5-7 years, where on the consumer side, riding on a payment rail, there is opportunity to innovate by players outside the banking domain, and it really helps. It's a great synergy between banking and the tech play, where you can actually innovate on the consumer side, riding on the payment rails. So that's where it's playing out well for a country, I would say.
So, Hotaji, last question for you before we go to some questions we have from the audience. How can the government, how can payment schemes help and drive and make digital payments more successful? Today, as we speak, we're still not out of COVID. And as I mentioned earlier, COVID will see further change in behavior. How do you think payment schemes, government, can help foster digital payments?
I suppose, in my view, government and the regulator are doing a superb job. And if we want that every Indian is touched by one or other electronic payments, that used to be my keyword, theme while I talk within NPCI, touching everybody with one or other electronic payments, and necessary that every Indian would make digital payments. If some Indians, like as Hemant says, India 1, India 2, India 3, if a significant part of India 3 also just receives the digital payment, that itself is a big step forward. And I suppose it is largely met, as you would have seen, the DBT time, Aadhaar-based payments, DBT payments, about 500 million people, the payment they received digitally. How can more and more can happen? Obviously, the customer education is required, but if it is extremely convenient, education load on education is much less. And if it is extremely convenient, how would the customer see that it is very? If there is any problem, the customer has somebody to ask. Means the grievance redress. If there is a fraud, immediately the money is get back. Regulator has come out with zero liability clause. There has to be an access, large number of customer points where digital payments are accepted. That has to be there. So while these initiatives are on, parallelly, and number of such instruments are coming out to meet the varying needs of in various contexts, as Sujata was telling, contextual payments, to varying needs in various forms of payments are going on. At the same time, the regulator and the government would have to think which are the areas we must target. Like one of the thing is, how can we make that all bus services, at least in metropolitan cities, 100% digital? How can we make it? Is it possible? In the Western cities, that one culture shock that we get when we really, a few years back, when we are traveling abroad, is, you go to the metro, you go to the bus, unless you buy a card, you cannot really travel. So this mobility payment, transport, particularly in buses, trains, and everything, how can we make it? Obviously, contactless is the way to go, and the work has really just started, and possibly it is a matter of time. So the targeted way use cases has to be there. First, in my view, is this transit, that is unexplored area, a big opportunity. Lot of innovators would have to come in, adhering to the standards. And second is the bill payment. Even now, with so much of digitization, hardly about 20% of the bills are paid digitally. 80% of the bills, who all can do? Government agencies, electricity supply authorities, different kind of payments. How can these bill payments be? We can migrate people to digital platform. A very concerted effort by everybody. While the instruments will go on, everything, at the same time, applications for specific applications, a very focused thematic focus would have to be there by entire industry. So that is where really, like financial inclusion payment, that is where this NUE relevance comes. Because RBI is thinking of NUE, if these players come, can they really operate in a thematic way and really work on this? So this is I feel some strategy, a national level strategy is necessary to cover one particular segment, the way few segments are largely digital. Thank you.
Thank you, Otaji. Thank you very much for that. I'm sorry, we have just a minute left. There was a question which said, what is the role played by these uncertainties in our response to these challenges in driving consumer adoption, and how best to ensure stickiness? I think Sujata did touch on how you can drive customer stickiness or consumer stickiness by giving them a payment service that's works all the time, is convenient for that specific use. So we're almost out of time. We just have a minute or two. If there's anybody on the panel who would like to say a last word, it's open to all of you. Okay.
I would suggest we are on the right track. I suppose a little more focus on really, because we'll have to set a bigger vision that would drive everybody. And that bigger vision appears to be the less caste society, financial inclusion, every Indian getting touched by one or other electronic payment. Such bigger things should bring everybody together. That is how I feel. Something should be binding, should bring together for a strategy. Or else
Thank you, Mr.
the
Thank you.
individually all players are great innovators, they are great jobs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments and panel. Manish, Sujata, Hemant, and Mr. Hota, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on this panel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Special thanks to our attendees for the enlightening conversation. It was a pleasure to listen to you. Special thanks to our sponsors and our attendees. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.